I have to confess something to you. I used to be a junkie. I know, not a weed junkie, not an alcohol junkie or a cocaine junkie, but a digital junkie. I was glued to my screen, going from Instagram reel to Instagram reel and going from YouTube video to YouTube video. Do you ever notice that you really want to do something and you know that the thing that you want to do will logically improve your life? So for example, working out, working on your business. But for some reason, you just can't get yourself to do it. You feel zero motivation and drive to get it done. And that's weird, right? Because these things, we really want them. In our head, we want to do them, but we just can't feel the drive to actually do them. Do you ever notice that real life achievements don't give you the same pleasure anymore as they used to give you? And that you don't derive the same satisfaction from basic things in your life? Or that you're constantly skipping songs, going from YouTube video to YouTube video just to find the one that's right for you. Why is that? That's the question that we will answer in this video. And it was something that I struggled with for the longest time. Not being able to be motivated to reach your goals is the thing that's holding you back the most. Because if the life you want to live and you want to strive for is not motivating you, then you will never get there. Sure, we need some discipline. Sometimes we need to do things that we're not motivated to do, but in the long run, if you're never motivated, it's never going to work because you're always going to be outcompeted by the people that do feel the motivation and drive to work on the hardest things in their life. The reason that you're addicted to your digital environment, so to your phone, to YouTube, to Instagram, is because of one simple molecule. That molecule is called dopamine. Dopamine is a molecule in our body that is tied to our motivation and our drive. It also enhances our depth of focus and it lowers the threshold of taking action on our goals. If your dopamine is high, you will feel very motivated to work on your goals. You've probably had that in the past, and that's the state that we want to get in. The simplest way that you can think about dopamine is that when our dopamine is high, we are focused on the external world and we feel very motivated to reach our goals. When our dopamine levels are low, which they are for a lot of people in the Western world, because we are constantly glued to our screens and our dopamine levels are just very low because of that. What happens is that you will have low energy, you will have low drive, and you will have low motivation to get stuff done. Does that sound familiar to you? The question that we can then answer is, why do I have low dopamine levels? Why don't I feel motivated to go after my goals? And why don't I feel the satisfaction from actually going after those goals? Let's answer that question now. The reason you have low dopamine levels is because you're overloading yourself with cheap dopamine. And cheap dopamine is basically the things we just talked about. It is going on your phone, going to Instagram, it's scrolling through your WhatsApp messages, it's watching porn, it's doing something that gives you a lot of pleasure in the moment, but you don't really have to work for it. So that's why it's called cheap. An example of hard dopamine is dopamine that you get from working on hard things. So for example, working out, working on your business, having difficult relationships, that's hard dopamine. And dopamine was designed by God or whatever your spiritual beliefs are to get us to do stuff. So for example, we would get dopamine from hunting. And that's what we needed to survive. So that's why God gave us the dopamine release during hunting in order to make sure that we feel motivated to hunt and that we can live. We can basically keep on living. In our current society, however, you can get the same dopamine hit simply by getting your phone, going to YouTube, going to Facebook, going to Instagram, going to a porn website. That's where you can get the same amount of dopamine which we used to get from hunting animals and making sure that we would stay alive. So if you think about that, what do you think your brain is going to choose? Is it going to choose the hard path or is it going to choose the easy path? And what you have to know is that for your brain, dopamine is a 0 and a 1. So a 0 means no dopamine, a 1 means we give dopamine. And if your brain knows that it can get dopamine from a very easy task, then it will always go for that. Why do you think you would work on your business or go work out if you can just scroll Instagram reels and you get the same satisfaction? You don't actually get that satisfaction, but for your brain, he thinks that it will give him that satisfaction. And that's why you don't feel motivated. And this is what we are all doing wrong. And I'm doing it wrong as well. We are ruining our dopamine sources by cheap dopamine, and that's why we don't feel motivated for the hard dopamine things such as working out and working on your business. Now the question becomes, if we know that the reason why we don't feel motivation for our goals is because we lack dopamine, the question becomes, how do I hack my dopamine levels so I always feel motivated to go after my goals? There are several things that you can do to hack your dopamine, and we can go into some biohacking stuff, you can take some supplements, but what I've seen with most things in life, that you get more results from removing stuff from your life than from adding stuff. So for example, if you want to eat healthy, what is the best way to eat healthy is to remove all the junk food from your diet. And the same is for your digital distractions and for your low dopamine. You can focus on all the high dopamine activities, such as going to the gym, building a business, having good conversation with friends, or you can just eliminate the cheap dopamine sources from your life, and automatically, like, your brain is still a dopamine searching robot. You have to see it like that. And it will still search the dopamine, and then it will automatically go to the hard dopamine sources, which are more in line with the goals that you want to achieve in life. You can take all the supplementation that increases your dopamine levels, but if you're still scrolling TikTok while you're doing that, then it's not going to work. So what is step 1 for getting your dopamine levels back to a good baseline? The first step is to go on a dopamine fast. What can you do for a dopamine fast? First, become aware and write down all the sources of cheap dopamine in your life. So here are some examples: social media, TV, Netflix, watching porn, gaming. And you don't have to completely eliminate this from your life for all of your life, but write down and be aware of where you get this cheap dopamine, this satisfaction without you putting in any effort to get that reward. Honestly, if you remove the biggest sources of cheap dopamine for 7 days, your entire life will change. Whenever I get stuck in a dopamine rut myself, and I'm not perfect, that's not what I'm saying on this channel, this is the first thing that I do. I look at, hey, what are the cheap dopamine sources in my life currently? How can I remove them from my life for 7 days? And automatically the next day I feel more motivation, more drive towards my goals. And why this is that your body still craves the dopamine. It still wants to get the dopamine, but it can't get it anymore from cheap sources. So what does it do? It looks at your goals. You look at your tasks you have to do, and you feel driven to do those, to check them off and get the dopamine from that. The second step that you can take is elevating your dopamine baseline. And these are the things I learned from Andrew Huberman. I've also made a video about his most effective protocols, which you can watch here. And basically, there are a few steps you can take to elevate your dopamine baseline so you will always feel more motivation and more drive. The first step has nothing to do with your digital environment. It's actually viewing sunlight for 10 to 30 minutes at the start of your day. What this does, it sets your circadian rhythm, and it also boosts your dopamine levels. The second thing that you can do is take a 1 to 3 minute cold showers. Studies have shown that it increases your dopamine for the hours after that. So if you start your day with a cold shower, you do your deep work afterwards, you will feel way more motivation and drive to get the work done. Then a third step you can take is by eating tyrosine-rich food. Tyrosine is an amino acid that converts into dopamine in your body. So if you eat more tyrosine, then you will get more dopamine. Examples of that are red meats, fermented cheeses, and nuts. And we started with viewing bright light in the morning, but what you want to do at the evening between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., you don't want to view any light because that negatively impacts your dopamine baseline levels. And step 3 is actually hacking your dopamine levels. So this is also what I do for clients at P Club. We look at, for example, what kind of things they want to do more. So if they want to have more motivation, I make sure to give them a supplement that is promoting the dopamine levels. So for example, there's a supplement which I'll link below, which is dopamine brain food. And these has all the compounds that stimulate the dopamine production in your body. So if you take it, then you will feel more motivation, more drive, because you will have more of those molecules in your body. But I do have to say, if you're not taking care of the basics, so that's step 1, dopamine fasting, step 2, hacking your dopamine baseline, it's not going to do that much, right? It's going to be way more effective to just remove all the cheap dopamine sources from your life instead of adding something. So that's how you can unlock limitless motivation and drive. The first step is to go on a dopamine fast. Second step is to hack your dopamine baseline levels. And 3 is to take a supplement that promotes your dopamine. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.